Hey! Are you ready for the next lesson of Node.js course? Hello everyone and welcome in the next lesson of our Node.js course. Today we are going to start with the API. In the previous video we did migrations and prepared our project to start, like today. So if you didn't see that video, take a look. I'll put you the link in the card up here. And you can do the code or you can take the code from GitHub and start with me today. We are going to build user registration. And before we start, remember to subscribe our channel and turn on the notifications so you know about the next lessons of this and other courses. So, let's go to the computer. Okay, so let's start from opening the project from the previous lesson in the terminal. And the first thing that we'll have to do is to refactor our migrations. Now we need a few more options, so let's run them down, migrate them down, and we will do some changes in the migration files, and then we will do them again. And you can check if your database is empty. And let's open our code. Let's go to our migrations file and let's start from the users. And we are going to do here a new column called salt, which will be char type. The next one will be created at. It will have type date and updated at. This will be quite similar, just the name will be different. Okay, let's save and let's go to the other file. To the accounts, yeah. And here we will just add created at and updated at. Okay, so if you saved the files and if you've done all the changes, let's go back to our console and let's run the migrations again. So npm run migrate app. If you would like, you can check your database if everything is fine. I will do it with mine. So everything is here, what we need, everything changed properly. Database is empty, cool. There is a relation. Okay, so let's go back to our code. At first, we will need to install some additional packages to create our user registration. The first package will be JSON Web Token. So let's use npm install JSON Web Token. Oh, we have a vulnerability here, so let's do npm audit. And here you can see how you can solve it. So let's fix it. And the other package we need to install is .env. So npm install .env. Great. Let's go back to our code and let's create .env file in the root folder of our application. In this file, we are going to create our database and the JWT token configuration. So let's follow me. Of course, pass here the data you are using for your database. In this file you can also pass some data which are needed for different configurations. It's a great place to set all these passwords, keys and stuff like that. Okay, about the JVDK, you will need to prepare one for yourself. You can do it using any of the existing tools in the internet or using a kgan in your console. In the article I will put in the description of this video, you can check the command I used to create mine JVT key. Okay, it's ready. So now we need to attach this file and in our main.ts file and access it. There are two places where we would like to put this data, so let's start from our main.ts file and here just use require.env config. And the same one we will use in the migrate.ts, so you can copy paste. And let's change here the data of our database to the constants from the .env config. Now let's copy this and let's reuse it inside database provider, because this is the second place where we are connecting to the database. Great. Now we are going to create a config for our JVT. For this purpose, let's create a new folder called config in our source folder. And inside this newly created folder, let's create a jvtconfig.ts file. And inside this file, we are going to set up some options for our JVT. So first of all, we are going to define the algorithm we are going to use, and in this case, it's going to be HS256, and the expiration, so expires in, and we will set it to 1 day as it's a financial app, so it shouldn't even be 1 day, I guess. Okay, great. It's ready. So we can continue and we can start creating our user module. Let's go back to our console and let's use Nest.js, and we are going to generate a new module. Okay, let's see if it's there. Yeah, here is the user folder, and inside the folder we have our module. We don't have anything to do here right now, so we can continue and we can create the entity file. So let's go to the user folder and manually create user.entity.ts file. Inside this entity, we are going to set up all the columns we will use in the database, so it will be a little bit similar to migrations, but not exactly. And we are using here Sequelize Typescript. First of all, we will define some table options for our table. And now let's create the class users, which will extend the user model. And inside that we are going to define properties for all those columns like type, allow null, etc. Here in the email column, we will set up a little bit more because we would like to validate this column. We would like to check if the value is email to be able to put it into the database, and the other thing is that we would like to check if it's unique. That's why I'm creating a custom function which checks if our email is already in database or not. If it's not, then we can continue. If it is, there it will throw an error. Great. As we have the entity, we can go to our database provider and we can add it as a model. So let's open database provider file and let's import our entity there. When it's imported, let's add it to add models array as here in the screen. Cool. When that's ready, we can go and create another file. Now we will be creating user provider. So in the user folder, let's create manually user.provider.ts file and let's import there the entity. Of course, the user entity. Now we will create a simple object called users provider, and there we will put provider and assign it to users repository and use value. Oops, there is a typo. And our use value will be users from entity. Great. Let's go to user module and let's add this provider here. Inside this module decorator as a providers and as exports. Great. Now we need to build an interface to define the types for our user. So let's create a new folder inside our user folder and call it interfaces. And inside that folder, let's create user.interface.ts. Inside that, let's create a new interface. We will call it iUser and let's define all the properties types. So ID will be number, username will be string, email will be string, password will be string, and salt will be string as well. The last thing are accounts, which will be the array. Cool! Now we can start the most exciting part. We are going to create user service and controller right now. Let's start from user service. In our user file, let's create a new file called user.service.js, and inside this file we are going to build a function which will save data in our database. We need to import injectable and inject from Nest.js and users from entity. We also need our JVT from JSON Web Token and the configuration for that. And besides that, we need one more thing, which is a built-in part of Node modules. So it's a crypto. And we will use this value to create salt and to hash our password. Okay, so let's start from defining the constructor inside our user service. And in the constructor, we'll inject user repository. It's a little bit similar to Angular if you are doing our Angular course along, where we are injecting the service in the constructor. Okay, let's start to create our method. And it will be called create. We would like to pass user to our method and return the promise. Oh, here is any error, so let's see what's that. Ah, yeah, we need this. Okay, first of all, we will need to validate our email again here. So we will check if the email already exists or not. The method will be similar like the one in the entity. And if the email exists, then we will throw an error that this email is already used. And if not, then the fun starts. So, in the other case, we will need to create a new property for our user. It will be called salt, and this will be a random string generated by random bytes from crypto. And we will code it with base 64. Next, we need to hash our password. And to make it stronger and safer, we will combine it with the salt. For hashing the password, we will use SHA-256. Okay, now we can define the new user. And our new user will use the user repository method create. When it's ready, let's define our JVT token using JVT sign method. And as an argument, we will pass user, process and JVTK and JVTconfig. And now let's add this token to our new user. And finally, we will return the new user. Oh, but I see there is a mistake, so we need to add the parentheses at the end of the injectable. And now we can go and create the controller. So let's go to our user folder and create a new file called user controller. And inside that file, let's import everything what we need. So we need controller, we need post as our method, we need body, we need HTTP exception, and we need HTTP status. All of them will be imported from Nest.js. Okay, then let's import user service and let's import our user interface. Okay, let's start from our controller, and users will be like the first part of our endpoint. Now let's define the class. Inside the class we will define the controller and passing here our user service. And after that we are going to create our post method. And our link to the registration will be register. Okay, let's create a public method called register right now. As a body we will pass the user. Let's start by defining the result, and let's use this async await here. We will define the result by running the create method of user service, and if the result isn't success, then we would like to throw HTTP exception with a batch request status. If not, then we will just return the result. Okay, so when it's ready, we have to inject these files into our user.module.ts file. Okay, so let's import user service and users controller as controllers, and user provider we will have here already. Great. So, the first part of our registration is almost ready. We created user, and currently we would like to create an account for each registered user. So, for that we have to create another module and go through a similar procedure once again. Okay, let's go back to the console and let's generate a new module. Great. The module is here, and again we don't have a lot to do in this module currently, so we can jump to another file, and the file we will create right now is also an entity for accounts. So let's go to the accounts folder and let's try to manually create the new file called accounts.entity.ts. And as previously, we'll import a few needed things from our Sequelize Typescript. Then we will define table options, and we will describe each column of our accounts table. Also here we will import our users entity because we would like to combine them, because we are using user ID here from users table, so it will be necessary. Okay, we have our table options defined, so let's create a table here, and yeah, we can start. It's pretty similar to the users entity file, just different names. Okay, and here we are using the foreign keys for our user ID, and we also add here belongs to, where we are defining to where our user ID belongs, and what is a target key and what is the foreign key. And as previously, we'll add created at and updated it. Great. Let's go back to database provider and let's import it here. And we will also pass it to add modules. Great. Now we can create the next file. It will be accounts provider. And let's import here our accounts entity. And let's define the simple accounts provider, where we will set the repository and use value. Okay, we've got it now. And we also here have to create interface. So as previously, let's create the interface folder inside the accounts folder. And in that folder, let's create accounts.interface.ts. In this file, we will create iAccount interface. So our interface for the accounts will have ID as a number, type as a string, name as a string, balance as a number, and user ID as a number. Now let's close all those windows, we don't need them. And now again it's the time to create account service. That's where the code starts. Okay, so import necessary stuff like injectable and inject. And also let's import our entity. Okay, and now let's use injectable and let's define our account service class. Inside the class, let's start from defining the constructor and injecting the repository inside. Okay, we've got it, so we can create our create function. Okay, to our create function we will pass the user ID and it will be number. And inside of this function, let's start from defining the account. It will be like default account which will be assigned to each customer. So we'll give it the name account, type personal account. We will set the balance to be 100 for the start. And our user ID which were passed will be here. So below that, let's create a constant new account and let's use our accounts repository to create it. After all, let's return the new account. Cool, now it's time to create the controller. And again, inside the controller we have to import everything that we need. So let's start from importing account service. After that, let's import the controller, post, body, HTTP exception and HTTP status from our Nest.js. And let's import the interface. Can be useful. And when you are ready, let's start to create the controller. Inside the accounts controller class, we'll define the constructor with account service. And After that, we are going to create the post method in the create account. And there again we will create the constant called result, and we will use account service create method. If the result will be successful, then it's fine, we'll return the result, and if not, then we will return the HTTP exception. It's really similar to the our user controller. Oh, here's a bug, and instead of this account, we are going to pass here the user ID with the type number. Yeah, I'm changing it to this user ID because currently we are not passing the whole object here. And we are almost there. Now let's go back to the user service because we need to call this accounts create method from our user service during the creation of the new user. Let's import it and let's go back to our modules to see if everything is there like it should be. Yeah, our accounts model is not done at all. So let's add some imports here, and we'll import our database provider here. We will import controller. Also, we will import accounts provider and accounts service as a providers and as an exports. Also, let's go back to user module and we'll need to import accounts module here to access all the account module and be able to create the account from user service. Okay, so let's go back to the user service and let's pass the account service in our constructor here. And then inside the else statement, just I would say below this new user token, let's do the condition, and if there is a new user, let's call the accounts service create function, passing the ID of their new user. Cool. There is one more thing which we would like to do, and it's adding has many according to the accounts to our user's entity. Okay, that's great. And we just need to import accounts here. From the entity. Okay, and when it's ready, we can go to our console and start our application. We will use Nest start for that. Oh, we have a bug. Okay. To solve this bug, if you have it, we just need to run the pre-build again. Just run it, but not with Nest, but npm run pre-build. and it should solve our issue. Okay, let's try to run it again. I hope you have a Postman or something similar installed so you can check the API. Okay, here is my endpoint, user localhost 3000, users register, and I'm passing the JSON format data. I'm passing username, I'm passing email and the password. Just some fake data. Okay. And taken into consideration that that was sent to post, so we can't do it with get method. Okay, let's go to the database and let's check if our data is there. So let's open the table, and as you can see, we have the account created with the values we pass. It's personal account for the user with ID 1, and here we have the password and solved. Great, congratulations! Congratulations! You've just created user registration in Node.js. If you would like to try to build backend in a different technology, we have a Golang course for you. I'll put the link in the card so you can check it out, maybe build the second backend and compare it. Also, we are creating the frontend for the same application using Angular 9, so feel free to check it out. I'll also put you the link. If you like the video and you want more lessons about Node.js, remember to give us thumbs up, we really like it. And remember to subscribe our channel and turn on the notifications. And also leave us a comment about everything you like and don't like in our videos. I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye!